Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everybody to Hyde Park regular board meeting, May 12th, 2025. Note, all town board meetings may be broadcast live on cable channel 22 and archived in the town's YouTube page. That's a new one. I'd like to call the meeting order. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to have the motion to accept the minutes from April 3rd, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to have another motion for the acceptance of minutes from April 14th.
So
April
moved.
14th. And I'm going to do April 30th separate, right?
Yep.
April 14th.
Which day was the special meeting?
30th.
The 30th.
Okay.
That's why
Okay.
I should have said 3rd and 14th.
Yep.
But we got 14th. May I have a motion? So moved. Liz? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now, a motion to accept the meeting minutes from special meeting April 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I was not present at that meeting, so I cannot cast a vote.
I was not present at the meeting, I can't cast a vote either.
Everyone else, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any of the board members have any conflicts with any of the conflict of interest regarding any of the items listed on tonight's meeting agenda?
No.
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 Okay. We don't have any public hearings tonight. All right. We'd like to acknowledge Christian McGraw for his continuing auspicious commitment, dedication, and service to our community. Christian, while off duty, was going home. There was a altercation. Sheriff's Department was there. Christian stepped into play. The sheriff had him go forward, and he talked somebody off the ledge, and very graciously, and ended up with a no-incident arrest. So I'd like to present this to Christian. Yeah.
Christian was also a recipient of the 40 Under 40 award given out by the Dutchess County Chamber of Commerce. First officer in our department to ever win that. Sorry.
Good job, thank you very much.
That's why we always stand behind our police department, on duty, off duty. They're always ready to serve at a moment's notice. Thank you.
No problem. Just want this one? Sure. Here you go.
Okay, Hyde Park Central School District. Superintendent, Dr. Pedro Roman, and Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Linda Steinberg, will present a comprehensive overview of the proposed budget.
Testing. Good evening, folks. First of all, I want to thank the council for allowing us this opportunity to present, as well as Town Supervisor, Mr. Torgiani. This evening, I would like to introduce myself as the superintendent, proud superintendent of the district. My name is Dr. Pedro Roman. I'm really excited to be sharing with you some information about our budget this upcoming year. And I have my counterpart here, Linda Steinberg. So the first thing that I want to do is share with you that we have spent a tremendous amount of time during my first year. I'm completing my second year in the district. The first year, we really focused on developing a strategic plan that aligned with what the community was saying was needed in order for us to move the district forward. There were 5 pillars that were identified. The first one was student experience. The second one was well-being, safety, and security. The third one was finance, facilities, food service, and future planning. The fourth area was family and community engagement. And lastly, we had highly qualified staff. So these areas were identified by our community through stakeholder interviews as well as survey results. And this really tells us the what that we wanted to accomplish in our plan. And in terms of the how, our administrators during the leadership retreat that we had last year really spelled this out in terms of identifying specific goals, key metrics that we were going to use to really drive this plan forward. In terms of the budget development and how this relates, we see the budget as an investment in our students and our school community. And in terms of the budget development process, we are closely approaching the budget vote, which is scheduled for next week on Tuesday, May 20th at Haviland Middle School from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. And one of the things that we really are encouraging our community to do is to come out and exercise their right to vote. One of the things that we've been analyzing is the participation rate, and so we really want to make sure that we are engaging the community. We've put out 3 videos about the budget. One is what is the budget all about in terms of from start to finish. We shared a second video, which was how are the funds invested, and lastly, how we engage our community in terms of all the documents that we have on our website. So we provided information around that. In terms of the key drivers that really drove this budget this year, the first one was how do we preserve the programs that are showing a positive return on investment. So that was key for us, as well as enhancing our programs. The second one was improving efficiency and effectiveness. And one of the areas that we really have been focusing on is how do we continue to drive some of the energy performance strategies that we have in the district to ensure that we utilize those funds where it most impacts students, as well as exploring some other areas to continue to drive efficiency and effectiveness. We're also looking at measuring everything that we have within the district. So programs, we really want to identify what are key performance indicators that will demonstrate whether or not we're making progress, the intended progress that we expect from various programs and services. The third bullet point is financial sustainability. We really want to make sure that when we put programs and services in place, that we're thinking about not just the single year, but thinking about 3 to 5 years down the road, because essentially that's how much time you need to see whether or not a program is really proven to be effective. And then lastly, but certainly most important, is being mindful of the impact on our taxpayers. And so that leads me to the next bullet point, which is this year, the first time in 5 years since 2019, we are going below the tax cap. Our tax levy increase is scheduled to be 2% this upcoming 2025-2026 school year. And we feel very confident that we are able to accomplish the key drivers that we've outlined for you with this proposed or this adopted budget. Do you want to add anything?
Sure, thank you. So I'm not sure if I need to turn this microphone on. Is it?
No, it should be on. Just have you bring it a little closer to you.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
it.
So thank you for having us. Like Dr. Roman said, I'm
You're
Linda
good.
Steinberg. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations for Hyde Park School District. I'm also a town resident, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't know which ward I live in, so I'll have to figure that out afterwards. But on the materials that we brought tonight, we did leave one for every council person, and there are some materials back on the table for anyone that's here, and for anyone that might be watching from home. We have all of this information on our website. So the slide that we're referring to. I do want to go back to the tax levy increase. Even though we're below the tax cap, you'll notice on this page here that we show at the top that our overall budget remains the same, whether we were below the tax cap or right at the tax cap. And the reason is that in order to bring the tax cap down to a 2% increase, instead of taking something out of our budget and reducing our budget, we're appropriating more fund balance. Over the last few years, we've been building fund balance, mostly because of vacancies that we've had that were hard to fill during COVID, and we're using $307,697 of those dollars towards the tax levy so we could be at the 2% increase. We also have a couple of slides that show the revenues, and then another slide that shows the expenditures. You'll notice on this slide that the total budget for 2025-26 is $125.9 million. That's a $4.9 million increase, or 4.13%. The categories listed here are really broad categories. On our website, we have a detailed revenue budget and also a detailed expense budget, if anyone is interested in reviewing that. The detail shows every account code that we have in the school district, and it compares next year's budget to the current year budget. That report is over 40 pages long. But I do know there are some people that like to have that information, so it is available. I do want to point out two things on the revenue side. Just you'll notice that our tax increase is at that 2%, which is below the levy. Our second line is other revenues, which has a large increase there. The main reason for that is for the 2 pilots that we're receiving for the Bellafield Hotel and for the Sake Brewery. Those just came online like this year, and we hadn't had it in our budget for 24-25. Other items in that revenue code include things like interest income, and we also charge other school districts when we have homeless students in our district that originate from somewhere else, or foster students. The page with the budget-to-budget expenditures, you'll notice that it matches, the budget matches, because we do have to have a balanced budget. So our budget, again, $125.9 million. Again, these are really broad categories that we show when we're presenting the budget, but all of the detail is on our website. We spend just over 75% on salaries and benefits, which obviously makes sense because we're in the business of educating students, and so the majority of our expenses come from our instructional staff.
The next area is the capital outlay project. In New York State, we're allowed to put forward one project each year in the sum of $100,000. In this particular year, we're looking to enhance our safety and security around our camera systems. So we're really looking to have a complete audit of all the cameras, making sure that there's a design to make sure that there's no blind spots whatsoever, and then having a face implementation and monitoring as we move forward. The project has to be up to $100,000. The benefit of these types of projects is that we get usually 66.4% return from the state in the form of a building aid reimbursement. And so essentially a $100,000 project will only cost the district $33,000. So we really take advantage of these types of projects to ensure that we continue to improve our infrastructure around the district. And so that is one of the components that we're putting forward in this budget season.
There's also a slide regarding the budget components. In New York State, school districts are required to provide the budget in this, laid out this way for the 3 components: program, admin, and capital. So we'll say the detailed budget that's on our website is actually broken down that way too. So you'll notice that program, which is mostly instructional but also includes transportation costs, except for bus purchases, is about 76%. Our admin costs tend to be just under 10%, and capital includes our not just capital projects, but our facilities and operations department and our bus purchases. So everything that we just talked about was Proposition 1, the general fund budget. We do have 2 other propositions on the ballot. This year, they're both bus propositions, and something that's a little different for us this year is that we have our bus propositions, we have 2 bus propositions. We have one for the buses that are we're most immediately in need of. Those include the 7 buses listed under Proposition 2. There are 4 66-passenger buses, a wheelchair-accessible van, a 30-passenger van, and a 7-passenger minivan. The total for all of those buses would be $975,075. The school district does receive aid back from New York State. Currently, our aid ratio is 58.4%. So after receiving aid, those buses would cost the district $405,631. And I do want to point out that when we buy buses, we typically borrow for them over 5 years. So we would be borrowing the $975,000. Proposition 3 is for the purchase of 9 EV buses. Now, you may all remember that in November, the school district had a vote for 17 EV buses. We had been the recipient of an EPA grant award for 17 buses. We were receiving $200,000 per bus. We were also trying to find a way to make those bus purchases affordable, so we applied for NYSERDA grants, and we received actually 10 NYSERDA grants, but we used one already for the current school bus that we have, and we have 9 grants remaining. We were in November attempting to use all of the grants to buy those 17 buses, but as you know, that proposition failed. The EPA grants are no longer available to us, but the NYSERDA grants haven't expired yet. So we do have the opportunity to take advantage of the grants from NYSERDA. Another thing that we found out just a few months ago now, New York State Aid made some clarification for school districts in that any schools that purchase buses and use state grant or state aid or state grants like the NYSERDA grants can receive the state aid on the total gross amount before the grants are subtracted. And for that reason, we would be able to buy these 9 buses after receiving the grant and the aid. The cost would be nothing to the school district. So we do have, right now we're facing the mandate with requirement without waivers to purchase only zero-emission buses after July 1st, 2027, and we are to have our entire fleet, which is 101 buses, converted by 2035. So this would help us get a head start or actually stay in line with being able to meet that deadline.
Just to add that we learned that you can apply for a waiver. What still to be determined in terms of moving forward with this plan, what's still to be determined is whether or not that extension is being put forward for the deadline to have your complete fleet turned over. So that has not been determined by the state yet. Additionally, in terms of, I'll hold that point.
Okay.
Lost my train of thought.
Yeah. So I do want to point out that if we buy these, if this bus is, these 2 propositions are separate, so we are asking people to vote on both. If they both pass, we'll buy all the buses. If just one passes, we'll buy the buses for that proposition. But this isn't a situation where the proposition with more votes is what we go with. They're 2 separate propositions. And even though we normally borrow for buses, we're not planning to borrow for the upfront costs for the Proposition 3. You'll notice that the upfront costs is the gross amount less the amount of the grant. So the total that we have to upfront is $2.2 million. The reason is that our bus sales company is actually going to be the recipient of the grant. So they'll take the grant for us and take it right off the invoice that they give to us. So we do have to upfront $2.2 million. We would pay for that with savings that we already have in our capital reserve. We do need to have the voters approve using the capital reserve funds, and then after that we would get the remainder in state aid. We also are eligible for charger grants through NYSERDA. Hyde Park School District is actually eligible for $65,000 per charger. The reason we can get such a high amount is that we did have a fleet electrification study done, and also because we're in a priority area for NYSERDA. We can use the charger grants to apply not just to the cost of the chargers, but for any upgrades that we might need, like electrical upgrades. So after we apply the grants, the charger grants to the amount that we would be paying for the 9 chargers, we would have about $235,000 to $240,000 left over for any of those upgrades that might be needed.
We have been asked why are we moving forward with this proposition again? One of the biggest pieces is that we're trying to be fiscally responsible to the community. One of the things that we know is that these grants are not going to exist forever, and so we want to continue to try to apply for these grants as long as they're still available to ensure that our community receives those grants. Additionally, why gasoline diesel buses, if there's a mandate moving forward, the biggest thing is the need is immediate, and so we need these buses to be replaced next year so that we can continue to provide transportation to the students that we serve currently. And so that is the immediate need that Linda was referring to earlier.
Yeah, and when we got the approval for that NYSERDA grant, it was for 66 passenger buses. There are 4, in Proposition 2, there are 4 diesel buses, and we did go back and forth trying to determine if we would use the EV bus grants for those 4, but we were also concerned about not getting the buses if the proposition were not to pass.
So can you, I just lost you in one, Proposition 2 and Proposition 3 are separate propositions, or you're voting on them and you could, if they both pass, you're going to
Yes.
have both of
Yeah,
them?
they're 2 separate propositions. Yes.
Yes.
Because those 9 buses are going to have to be replaced by like next year, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Or by this year? Okay.
Exactly, for the fall. And then in terms of production and manufacturing for EV buses, those take at least a year and a half, if not more. The buses that have been identified will be decommissioned because they're reaching their life expectancy as part of our replacement plan for our fleet. So those buses are nearing the end of their life.
And what is the life expectancy of a normal bus?
It's about 12 years?
Yeah, New York State says that a diesel bus is good for 5 years. Our mechanics keep them going for 12, usually 10 to 12. We usually take them off the road when they start to rust, and DOT won't let us use them anymore. The EV buses, New York State is saying, are good for 12 years.
Do you have mechanics that could work on the EV buses?
The buses would be, the battery part would be under warranty, and the mechanics that work for the bus sales company would take care of that work, but our mechanics have been trained on the rest of the maintenance of the EV buses.
In terms of the last remaining slides, those are just items that were brought forth by our administrators throughout the district. We go through a vetting process to identify what is a priority, what is something that can certainly wait, what's the impact on students. So we go through a rigorous process as a cabinet to make sure that the items that we put forward have been vetted thoroughly. This just outlines in terms of the items, how much they cost, which ones are going to be funded through the general fund, which ones are going to be funded through a grant. And really, in terms of all the items, there were only 2 items that we did not approve, and those were the personnel requests that were outlined on lines 3 and 4. Other than that, we're able to preserve the programs and enhance a lot of our programs moving forward. And then in terms of the last steps, again, just reiterating what I started off with, May 20th is the budget vote, as well as the board member election. We have 3 board members that are up for election. And in terms of the school budget vote, it's going to take place at Haviland Middle School from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. And we're just encouraging everyone to come out and exercise their right to vote.
There is more information on our website, and we're happy to answer any questions that people have either now or when they reach out to us later on.
And just want to thank the council and town supervisor again for having us this evening. We really appreciate it, and thank you.
And you folks are still going to do another presentation at the library, correct?
Yes.
Okay, similar to the one tonight?
Well,
So that is some presentation that we were invited to through, what's the organization? The EV. It's the Hyde Park.
Climate Smart.
The Hyde Park Climate Smart group.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any questions down there?
Anybody?
All right, I'll be the bad guy. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. I know your intentions are good, your heart's in the right place. I got to tell you, I received this postcard in the mail, and I'm a pretty sharp guy when it comes to numbers. I can't figure this out. I really think that your PR person or your person that draws these numbers up, where it's got one proposition, the other proposition, the estimated savings on your star exemption, if you passed it, is 720, but it doesn't tell me what my increase of the tax would be to save my $720. The second thing that's really a bad sore subject with me is a while back, the school district sent the representatives to come over and give us a presentation on the so-called solar farm that they wanted to put up at Roosevelt High School. The gentleman expressed that when he puts that solar farm in, that the solar would produce enough to take care of all the electric at all their buildings in the school district. That's the way it was explained to me. I know the solar farm was put up. I asked several questions that we never got a follow-up, because the one gentleman that was here that gave the sales pitch, he should be a car salesman, the first thing out of my mouth was, you guys know you're getting electric buses. Have you figured that the solar panels would be large enough to accommodate some more of the electric use so that it would continue to keep our electric down? They never got back. They said they were going to get back to us.
The guy was from the solar
He's from
company,
from the solar
not from
company.
the school district.
He never got back to us. So I'm a little upset, because now we're talking about NYSERDA grants and all this stuff, which is all great. But when you're talking about it's below the tax of 2% increase, when I read this, I can't figure out, the cost of what it's going to cost me per thousand, or what it's going to cost. And I'm looking at it as if the budget was 25, 26. It says that the increase is going to be 4.13, and if we did a contingency budget, the cost is 2.99. Now, I'm not tooting our horns up here for this board, but in 2022, we took over. And when we took over in 2022, the prior administration already passed the budget, and our budget was at 4.06%, which was high, but we inherited that. The following year, in 2023, because most of our contracts that we implemented and enforced are 2-year contracts, our increase in our town tax budget went to 2.47. Now we're getting to the meat and bones. Now we're all here, and we understand how things work. In our third year, our tax increase was negative 0.19%. And our fourth year, in 2025, our budget increase was 0.95%, less than 1%.
Okay.
I think, my personal opinion, that some of them board members need a good kick right out the door. You need to get some fresh blood in there and get some of these numbers down. There's a lot of fat, and there's a lot of expenditures that are hard to swallow. That's my personal opinion. On the other note, I have a lot of seniors in my ward that say the same thing. So that today I came to Maureen, the tax assessor, and to be honest with you, I'm tired of hearing about it, that she says the school district refers all the calls over to us because they're saying that our amortization or assessment rate, and we had meetings about this, needs to be done over, which the supervisor is looking into that, and we agree. But if your budget number last year was $120,994,000, and your proposed budget this year is $125,988,000, it's not a rocket science to tell you, if we start with zero and forget about the amortization rate, the assessment rate, this budget went up over $5 million, almost $6 million. So of course there's going to be a huge tax increase. I think that you got to really work on informing the public what you're doing, send a signal out to them, send questionnaires to the people, asking them what they need to do, but you got to trim these numbers. In my personal opinion, they're way too heavy for the average taxpayer of Hyde Park. That's my personal opinion. That's all I got.
Can I respond to that?
Sure can.
Okay, so first and foremost, thank you for your feedback. We appreciate the feedback. First of all, we're working with students, right? Students that have varying needs, and we sometimes don't know what the needs are of students that come into our district. So I'll give you an example of a student with special needs. If a student has a specialized program that requires a student to be placed out of district, that's an easy $100,000 program for 1 year. And that's not including any of the various services that the student may require. That's just one example. We are in the business of meeting students where they are. We are in the business of providing a free and appropriate education because by federal law, that's what we have to do. So there are many...
I can appreciate that, but listen, we're talking about Hyde Park. If you come, or anybody wants to come and sit down with us, our overall growth in this town has been flat. I don't think it exceeds 1%, is that correct?
Right.
It's been flat, so it isn't like this town's growing where, you know, and maybe we are bringing in more out-of-district people or special needs people, but it isn't like this town's blooming to have these excessive numbers.
So again, as I was responding, that's what we do. We have to ensure that we're meeting the needs of students. That's not as easy as just cutting programs and services because that's going to impact the students that we serve. Social emotional learning and social emotional supports that we provide students day in, day out, a lot of our students suffer from various traumatic experiences. And so we have to think about how we best serve our students. And that may require counselors to be in every school. That may require us to have psychologists. It's a very individualized program design that we have to go about to ensure that our students are thriving. And so I certainly respect, you know, you and the administration for slashing programs.
Well, I didn't say we slashed programs.
Okay.
I showed you where how we are reducing taxes. That's by being business-oriented, looking at the numbers, renegotiating contracts, renegotiating services, doing whatever it takes.
Sure.
Most of our services here haven't been slashed, we've been adding them. But it's just a comparison.
Sure, and again, I appreciate the feedback, and we'll take that into consideration.
Anybody else?
No.
Do you mind if I say anything? So I just want to point out on the slides with the revenues, it shows how the budget is being funded. So the tax increase is 2%. It is, like Dr. Rahman mentioned earlier, it's one of the lowest tax levy increases that we've had. The overall budget is increasing by 4.13%, but we have other revenues coming from other sources too. One of the things is we have our debt service, so we do try to keep our debt service about $1.8 million every year. Our debt service is what funds our capital projects and sometimes our bus purchases when we borrow for those or use the capital reserve. We do change the amount that we pay on our debt year to year. We work with our financial advisors based on how much aid we're getting in. So for next year, we're getting $4.5 million in aid for building aid, which is for school construction and renovations and transportation aid. And we're also moving over $640,000 from our debt service fund, which has been established to pay off debt. And then we net that against, you'll see on the expense side of the budget, our expenditures for debt service for payments was increasing by $941,000. So that's why we found those additional revenues, because we didn't want to take add to the tax levy to make those payments. And we do have, like I said earlier, we do have some additional revenues from the 2 pilots that started this year.
Thank you.
I have one other question.
Sure.
When you guys looked at the buses, there's a lot that goes with them, especially in the Northeast. We all know they need housing. And the weight of the buses is like when we build a firehouse, you got 1 foot thick concrete floors, they gotta be heated. Anybody look at all that? I mean, when they, it's great to get buses for free. I'm all about free.
Were you asking about the weight of the bus or the?
So in terms,
housing.
Yeah. So in terms of the infrastructure, we had a fleet assessment done, and that fleet assessment allowed us to use our current infrastructure to have up to 17 buses without changing any of the current structures that we currently have, not changing anything that we currently have. So we can actually support at our bus garage up to 17 buses.
Electric ones.
Electric buses, yes. That was the electrification assessment that we had done. That's what that yielded.
And we had been meeting with Central Hudson as well and NYSERDA about grants that might be available for infrastructure upgrades. Those charger grants that we have, and there's other grants available. NYSERDA wants to see that we're buying the buses before they commit to us to giving us those funds. But we already know we're eligible for the $65,000 per charger. And Central Hudson has identified grants for us that, if they know we're getting the buses, they'll help us apply for those grants too, to upgrade the facilities or the infrastructure, whatever has to be done.
Good. And one other thing that just sparked my memory here, we have one electric bus now, right?
Yes.
Has there been any written documentation or anything supplied to the public of how many miles are on it, how it's doing, this and that? I have not read anything positive or negative about the bus.
Yeah, so we've been putting, not necessarily to the public, but our school community. So we do share input about what's happening with our bus in our newsletter. So that's something that we have to do a better job to make sure that the entire, how can we get that information to the entire community? That's something that we can certainly do. In terms,
definitely.
Yeah, in terms of the savings, so we recently had some calculations done. Early on in the fall, it was about a 70-cent savings in terms of per mile. In terms of diesel gas compared to the electric, we're down to
70. You said 70.
70 cents. Yeah, 70. Yep.
And what is your average price per mile for diesel? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you. Like, I don't have that number, but we can certainly get that for you. And now it's about 58 cents per mile.
I get a lot of questions about that one electric bus. Is it in operation? Where is it stored? Do we have a charger for it?
Yes.
Do people know how to work on it?
Yeah. Do you want to speak to any of that?
So one of the reasons, it did take us a long time to get that bus, and one of the reasons is the bus sales company, well, the manufacturer had changed their process after we ordered the bus, and that they weren't starting manufacturing buses until school districts had the chargers installed. And our original plan was to have that done all at the same time. It didn't have anything to do with Hyde Park. It was like their policy change. So once we got the charger installed, they then started the manufacture of the bus. That was last January, and we took delivery in October. The bus has been in operation. We had a minor issue with a 12-volt battery, not the battery that operates the bus, and it had to do with an aftermarket installation of security cameras in the bus and the stop arm camera. We contract for that through Dutchess County, and the company didn't realize, I don't really know what they didn't realize, but they had hooked it up wrong, and the bus was draining overnight. So Leonard Bus came to Leonard Bus is our sales company. They took the bus to their garage in Middletown, and it did take them a little while to figure out what was making the battery drain. After that, they worked with Bus Patrol. They reinstalled the cameras, and we haven't had the issue with that since then.
They did identify it was
it's
the camera.
12-volt battery, yeah, and it's. So we know that now. We know that for the future, when they come to install the cameras on the future buses, and the bus is at the bus garage. It's stored outside with the charger. We've been rotating the runs that it's on. Because the head mechanic and the transportation supervisor just want to see how it does on the different types of routes that we have.
And what about in the winter? How long do they run?
So. Can
they break down in the middle of bringing kids home because it's so cold?
No.
We
did have a little issue with the charging overnight when it was really cold. So.
And then is it a high-speed charger that goes for these buses?
It's a level 2 charger, and there are level 3 chargers that are charged faster. And our head mechanic asked that we buy the level 3 chargers for if we get these night buses.
Yeah.
Are there any precautions taken in case of fire?
We did
training?
have training with first responders and our staff when we received the bus. I think it was the same day or the day after that we received the bus. We provided training. There was a few different sessions, and the local first responders were invited to that too.
Is it true that the manufacturers, and just asking, the manufacturers warranty or the manufacturer specifies that there should be a certain distance space between the buses? Because I know that with the electric cars, my buddy has a body shop on the other side, and what they're doing now is putting concrete barriers up in between. I mean, I know I just got done doing a project for a local citizen here in Hyde Park, and he put 2 chargers in his garage, and his price was astronomical because it didn't have a fire separation wall. So when he got his insurance prices thereafter, they basically said, well, if there's a fire, you're going to lose both cars in the garage. And he found out that his insurance was more than his house when he wanted to insure the garage. Are there any special things that if you get these buses, are we going to separate them? Are we going to put concrete barriers between them? Are we going to do any precautions to reduce our insurance risk of a fire and reduce our insurance, period?
There has been no increase in insurance. I did talk to our insurance provider. They provide insurance to New York State schools. They don't have enough experience yet with buses, with EV
No, but
buses.
you don't have 10 new buses coming.
Right,
If you had
right.
10 new buses coming,
No, there would be, right now, with the one we have, it costs the same to insure it as a 66-passenger diesel or gasoline-powered.
but if this proposition goes through and you have additional buses, is there going to be an insurance increase?
No, it'll still be the same amount that we pay for a 66-passenger bus. If the experience shows, like for the consortium for New York State School Insurance Reciprocal, if it shows that there's more claims on EV buses, in the future they may increase the cost for the insurance, but they're not planning to do that at this time. There haven't been recommendations to have barriers between the buses. There may be recommendations for the spacing, but they've already come and inspected like how we store our buses and haven't made any recommendations for change. I do know that the bus batteries are lithium iron, not ion batteries, so they are safer and they have a longer range of operation than a lithium ion battery.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. What is the year for zero emissions?
So right now, in this, it's July, any bus purchases after July 1st, 2027 need to be zero emission. School districts are supposed to have their entire fleet converted by 2035. We have 101 buses. They're not all the same size. So when I say buses, anything that we use to transport students, we have some buses that are actually like Suburbans, because we have maybe students that go to a private special ed school, and there's only 1 or 2 students on those buses. But all of our buses need to be converted by then. There has been a waiver for 2 years for the start, so school districts could apply with reason. And I don't know what the reasons would be or what would be accepted to push it off to 2029, but the 2035 date is still the same. In the current budget, there's a provision to apply for a second 2-year waiver, and we're not sure if that provision is also going to affect the total transition date.
And that's a state law or federal?
State.
State emissions?
Yeah, these are state.
And with regards to the 2-year waiver, you have to show that you have a clear implementation plan to move forward with this in order to be approved. The other piece that we wanted to mention is one of the consequences of not purchasing zero-emission buses after July 1st, 2027 is that currently we receive 58.4% reimbursement from the state for each of the purchases that we make in terms of our buses. We would not be eligible to receive that, so we would pay at full cost for each of the buses that we do purchase if they are gasoline and diesel.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thank
why
you.
don't you, if you could just be patient and stay right there. We have 3 people that signed up. Maybe we'll start with you, Sharon. Do you want to come up? Do you want to speak on the bus? Come up to the microphone and just state your name and tell us your thoughts.
Unfortunately, Sharon Perino Yuko, I wasn't here to speak on the school
Oh, okay.
buses, but I do
Okay.
have something to say now that I've heard this speech. The face of education is changing, and as it changes, it just occurred to me that buses really aren't part of education. Buses seem to be something that could be a shared service in Dutchess County, not centralized to the Hyde Park Central School District or the Wappinger Central School District. And with all of the changes with the EV buses and emissions that is upcoming, I think that is something that should be looked at. Why should Hyde Park still be buying buses? So I still want to speak, but it didn't have to do with the school budget. But thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
We'll call you back up after we get through with these guys? is that-
Yeah, sure, okay.
Thank you very much, Sharon. John, you want to come up? Thank you for your input, John. You can sit down now.
We do it every time you come up.
Thank you very much, Al, John, everyone. John Shalepi, One River Road, Hyde Park, New York. I'm here primarily to speak about the school budget, and particularly those propositions. First, I am happy that you're able to keep the cap, the part of the budget that's paid for by the residents in taxes down to the cap, even though, as John mentioned, that the total expenses are higher, but you've got grants and other things to make that up. My real interest is to talking about the the electric school buses. I think it's a great idea from the standpoint of many standpoints. One would be the reduction in the fumes and the emissions that are happening. Many of our students and drivers and community residents have problems with asthma and with breathing, and it's amazing the difference that happens when you don't have those fumes. For the last year and 2 months, I've had an all-electric car. And it really is amazing how less smell there is. You don't realize it when you're driving gas and diesel, but when you change, you see the difference, you smell the difference. And yes, of course, John, I think you mentioned about the solar farms. I don't have any direct knowledge of those things, but of course, when you've got electric school buses, you're going to be using more electricity. That's an obvious thing. But the savings in your gas bill, your fuel bill for gas and diesel will go down as the electric bill goes up. And the ratio is the electric bill will go up much smaller than the gas bill goes down. So in other words, that you'll be saving money. Typically, an electric vehicle, for example, a car, gets about 98 to 104 miles per gallon equivalent. Your cars, if you're driving a gas or a diesel car, is getting nowhere near that number. And the same thing with the school buses. Your savings in, I think you said, what, 70 cents per mile? And that's a significant amount. If I understood you correctly, about $1.50 versus then it would be then 70 cents less is quite a bit. We're talking about a third to a quarter of the cost. So the operating costs are less. As far as insurance, when you get a new car, if you have time left on your insurance policy from an old car that you've traded in, then the insurance company, will keep going to until your expiration of insurance, and they'll either charge you more money for the new car or less. I got a rebate. I got money back when I went to an all-electric car from my previous car. So, that the rate for the insurance is lower. I can't imagine it would not be the same for the electric school buses. So, lower emission, these guys have been able to find grants to cover the cost. It would seem to be, for me, a no-brainer that you can either pay the costs for buying a gas and diesel, or you can get the electric buses for free. I don't see a great value in paying extra for something that's an inferior product. This is pay less, and you're getting a better product. And I can tell you that I've had absolutely no cost. There's nothing that goes wrong. If anything, it might be that you'll need less mechanics because there's no engine to tune. There's no, et cetera, all the things you know about that go into a car. It's just a motor and a battery. There's nothing else. Anyways, for those reasons, I'm in favor of the electric school buses. And there's an information session at the library, as I think you mentioned, and that's on Thursday at 7 o'clock in the Hyde Park Free Library, which is just across the street from here to Main Street. Okay.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John.
Another person we have, Robert Greninger. You can come up and speak, please.
Good evening. I'm very interested in this electric bus proposal. I recently moved into the Gables, 17 Orlando Drive, and the availability of electricity for that, 480 volt, the equivalent of your level 3, which are you using level 3 or level 2 to charge the current school bus?
Currently is level 2.
Okay, level 2 comes out of a regular garage, 220 volt. Level 3, which is what you're proposing, is the 480 volt 3-phase. They're a big humming transformer, and you're going to need 9 or 10 of those. My only question in this whole thing, you need to look at the timeline. It took us the better part of a year to get a transformer for this section 4B down in the Gables. So whatever you think your timeline is, you may well be gated by Central Hudson. Other than that, I think the idea of switching to electric makes good sense. We all have to understand, though, these electric buses with their batteries, you're looking at 50 to 100% greater weight. So you have problems with any of the roads you have, any of your potential parking areas, any of your facilities. You're dealing with a much heavier vehicle, and it's a much tougher vehicle to tow it when the school bus sits by the side of the road. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
That is something, Doctor, you got to take in some of the bridges. I don't think even the big plows go over. You know, I would suggest before Howie's retired, go through and find out all the roads that can handle, something of that weight, because they can't even go down some of them, especially the bridges, and that's all town roads.
So just to clarify, in terms of the weight, we do have information around that on our website. Linda, do you want to speak to that real quick?
Yep, so there is a flyer on our website about the bus weights. The EV buses that we would be purchasing weigh about 3,000 pounds more than the diesel buses that we have. And according to the manufacturer, the weight is distributed more evenly. So the current buses we have weigh about 32,000 pounds, and an EV bus would be 35,000 pounds.
That's not bad.
Anybody else in the audience would like to speak?
This is a good prep test for you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you opened up the dialogue. We appreciate it a lot. I'm going to be at Thursday's meeting at the library because I'm hoping that you're going to bring me a breakdown of what it costs for a diesel bus per mile, what it costs for the electric, and prove that point. I know that you said it was 70 cents and possibly a 58-cent savings, but you really didn't go through the whole dynamics for the diesel and what that would cost.
We can do that.
If you can get that, I'd be curious to see, so that we can compare apples to apples, so
Sure
that
thing.
we know what our out-of-pocket savings are going to be.
Sure thing.
I mean, because that's a big part of the sales pitch. So,
Yep.
And if there's other school districts that have gotten further ahead than where you are right now, you have one. Anybody else have more?
Oh, yes.
And, you know, obviously, we did the due diligence to check how they doing it, how they're doing. Is there any issues, any problems, you know, other than just tax issues?
Sure, absolutely.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Clark to present a petition for rezone.
We can't see that far. Good evening. I'm Kelly Leibolt with KARC Planning Consultants, and Amy Ardrakis with KARC Planning Consultants. And we're here just as an initial workshop, just as discussion with the town board to talk about a petition to rezone a property. This particular piece is located on 532 Salt Point Turnpike, County Route 115. The property is about 6.32 acres, and this particular property is in the Greenbelt zoning district, and we are requesting to rezone the property to the neighborhood business district. Go down. We did provide a petition to rezone with some supporting information. Again, we're here tonight just as an overview to the town board. We provided you with some detailed information about this particular area. I'm sure that you know this area as well as we do. There is a collaboration of various properties that are in the Greenbelt district along this section of the roadway, and properties that are in the NB district. So in this particular drawing that we have up on the screen, green is Greenbelt, pink is neighborhood business. The subject property that we are here tonight to speak about is highlighted. Amy's just got the cursor where that piece is, very close to the other neighborhood business districts. As you drive along this road, which I do quite often, there is a conglomerate of different uses. So there are some residential uses, but there's quite a few commercial uses or retail uses that are actually in the Greenbelt district that are operating as commercial uses. I'm not sure how that occurred. We can do some research and figure out how that occurred. But the point is that when we speak about a petition to rezone, we're trying to look at the character of the neighborhood and whether or not this request to rezone the property for a different use is consistent with the neighborhood. Given the fact that this property is very close, one parcel away from other neighborhood business district properties, and also adjacent to and across the street from properties that are in the commercial use, we feel as if it's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. We provided you with just some details showing aerial photos and some of the different uses on the properties. We can go through this in greater detail when we're back before this board, but we did tonight just want to provide you with a quick overview. The process typically is that this town board would refer the action, if it feels favorably about it, refer it over to the planning board to act as the lead agency to complete seeker. We would work with the planning board to review the specific components of the rezone request, and if the planning board and the involved agencies determined that it was an appropriate use, they would render a seeker decision, and then we would come back to the town board to complete the rezone process. So it's a bit of a back and forth on the project. The ultimate use for the property, the applicant is proposing to use the property for self-storage. It's a very de minimis use. We talk about it being nearly identical to a cemetery, very minimal traffic, minimal water, minimal sanitary sewer, lights, noise, etc. Generally, when people are using properties for self-storage, people are filling the storage units and rarely come back, to visit those storage units. And so because of that, the traffic is very minimal. We did a fairly complete analysis comparing some of those threshold impacts in our original submission. We would certainly do a more detailed analysis of a comparison of the self-storage unit use to some of the permitted uses in the Greenbelt district for purposes of a seeker review. So that's kind of an overview. I know Mr. Barnett had asked me for some additional information, which I will get over to the town to review as part of this application.
Any board members have any questions or concerns at this point?
No, is that house going to still be there?
That's a good question. The house would remain, and it would be
it doesn't
utilized
show-
for, excuse me?
It doesn't show that on your layout.
No, I think that's the form.
Yeah, they would propose is to reutilize that as an office. It's actually right across from Cream Street, if you see where it's, here, can you? The house is right here. It's hard to see because there's some grading. But that would be the primary office and would be utilized and made available to an employee of the facility to utilize for housing. Very small box.
Anybody have any questions? I know that, this is basically going to be referred to Kyle, and Kyle's going to give us a recommendation to the board after he researches all the information. Would any of the board members have any questions or concerns that they'd like to say now?
I don't.
I do not.
Good.
All right, so we're going to refer this over to Kyle and let him give us his recommendation, and then we'll proceed from there.
Very well. We'll get the additional information that he had requested to the town. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, you want to see if Sharon wants to come up now before we...
Well, that's what I'm going to do. Is any public comments on resolutions and town business? That's you. Time
That's
limit? 3 minutes,
me.
and 35 seconds.
Okay, I can do it in 3 minutes. Well, you should have saw John and I on the planning board if you think this is something. Anyway, I publicly came out to thank John Lombardi and Richard Maddox on a lighting issue that I had earlier this year, and it was, I copied the world, so I know, Al, you are on copy to it, and I just wanted to publicly thank John for that and driving it. And it has been resolved. Thank you. And that's all I came here to do tonight. We're always, bad news, and I wanted some good news also. I was very, felt good to see that our police department was recognized tonight. That was nice. And a young police force. Bobby Benson's always trying to arrest me at the Historical Society because the alarm always goes off by accident, and it's always me. So thank you, you guys.
No, thank you,
Yeah,
too,
coming
because
out.
I tell you, with what you were talking about, it initiated Richard Maddox, which he does a phenomenal job, to change some of the protocols with Central Hudson, because you could see how complicated and convoluted it got, and it seemed like, everybody passed it on to the next person at Central Hudson, and it seems like now we got it under control, so any more further complaints come in, he knows how to direct them and get them to the right people.
Excellent.
So I thank you very much too, Sharon. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks for the job well done.
Yep,
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other comments, public? No? Yes? All right, we move on to resolutions. Mark,
We're going to
you're
go
up.
to executive session for the...
No, we don't have to.
Oh, okay.
Mark?
Okay. Resolution 512-1 of 2025, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to adopt the revised 2025 fee schedule for the Town of Hyde Park.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prisakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 512 of -2 of 2025, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to acknowledge the retirement of part-time cleaner Deborah Gibson.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Prisakowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 512-3 of 2025, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to approve the Town of Hyde Park Court Clerk Shannon Idell to attend the T-SLED training on June 20th, 2025 in LaGrange, New York.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 512-4 of 2025, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Board to accept the donation of $1,000 from Kathy Gallinger and the Executive Board of Corey's Community for the Town of Hyde Park Recreation Department's 2025 Adventure Day Camp.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 512-5 of 2025, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Supervisor to execute an extension of the intermunicipal cooperation agreement with the Town of Hyde Park Highway Department and the the Hyde Park Central School District commencing on January 1st, 2025, and shall terminate on June 30th, 2025.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 512-6 of 2025, resolution authorizing the Town of Hyde Park Town Supervisor to execute an extension of the intermunicipal cooperation agreement with the Town of Hyde Park Highway Department and the Hyde Park Central School District for the 2025-2026 school year.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried.
Resolution 512-7 of 2025, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to execute an automatic temperature control preventive maintenance service agreement with Independent Temperature Control Services North for the Hyde Park Police and Court building.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll call vote?
Councilman Prine.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda.
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilman Persikowski.
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani.
Aye, motion carried. Okay, anybody have any new or old business or anything they want to talk about?
If I may. Can I just go first?
You can.
Okay. So first, I just want to make sure that the resolution regarding the fees, it's clear that that's going to affect fees going forward from this day forward, starting tomorrow. There has been a request from Bellafield regarding their project, which is an ongoing project, and there's been multiple phases and continued phases, and so that may require separate and special consideration by the town board at a future town board meeting. I would suggest that be taken up at that particular point in time. And because I also got a request from their council, but that was just maybe about an hour or so ago. So I would suggest that we deal with that at a later time, save for that issue. The fees are effective starting tomorrow. The other matter is that we received a petition from Warren Raplansky regarding pursuant to local law 1, challenging the proposed access roads for the Six Senses Hudson Valley Resort project. I have, subsequent to that, received correspondence from counsel for Six Senses arguing that the petition filed by Mr. Raplansky is insufficient and not in compliance with local law 1, in that the petition was brought by Mr. Raplansky and not by a a resident of the town of Hyde Park as required by the local law. Mr. Raplansky has argued in challenging to in addressing that he was bringing it on behalf of petitioners that he purportedly represents that are also involved in a separate Article 78 proceeding. The counter-argument to that is that there's been no authorizations provided and that the petition itself isn't signed by any residents of the town of Hyde Park. Another issue that that I have observed looking at the petition of Mr. Raplansky is that it is enormously broad, addresses matters beyond, or what appears to be beyond what's contemplated in local law 1, including challenging the local law itself and whether or not the town board had the authority to do that. So I think there are some scoping issues pertaining to this. I think it would be prudent, rather than I address the matter outright and either deny the petition for facial insufficiency or procedural insufficiency, or proceed without hearing from both parties in the matter, probably wouldn't be prudent. So what I would recommend is that we acknowledge that we've received this petition, and I would suggest that we invite Mr. Raplansky and any individuals that he purportedly represents or witnesses he may have to address the town board and provide his arguments as to why the petition is sufficient, and since it affects obviously the Six Senses property owner, allow their attorney to provide whatever arguments that they might have counter to that, and then this way the town board can make an informed decision following a hearing on that issue between the two of them. This board can then ask questions of the lawyers and interact as need be to make a determination. I would also suggest it probably makes sense, so this way we can be as prepared as possible, to require them to make a submission, one submission each, regarding what their arguments are for and against by a date certain, and then put this matter on for a determination at the June town board meeting. What's the next town board meeting in June?
Second Monday in June.
Second Monday in June. So I would suggest that we require them to make whatever submissions they have by, let's say, May 23rd, and then we'll have this back on June 9th for a determination as to the sufficiency of the petition.
Hold on, I'm confused. So
Yep.
May 23rd is the written petition, but
Written submissions.
submission. So
to
June
us.
9th is our next meeting. They will come and actually give a presentation at the June 9th meeting?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. And then, once the board feels they have enough information, whether it's at that meeting or a subsequent one, whatever's most sufficient and efficient, make a determination as to whether or not the petition that was filed by Mr. Raplansky is sufficient and in compliance with the local law, and should be heard on the merits. That would be my recommendation, given the controversy. So if that's the case and the board so directs, I will reach out to both parties and advise them accordingly. And maybe perhaps if I could have authorization, maybe a motion and a second. And
So
resolution.
moved.
But hold on, I got one other question. And if one of the parties don't agree, what would be the next course of action?
Well, I mean, if Mr. Raplansky doesn't agree to it, I mean, we do have whatever information he's provided thus far, and maybe we just hear from Six Senses, or vice versa, and we still act at the, following the June 9th meeting.
Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha, okay.
So I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting in any way, if Mr. Raplansky refuses to participate, that in and of itself should defeat the possibility of considering the merits of the petition.
Okay.
But just giving him that opportunity.
Gotcha.
Thanks. So you need a second.
Al made a motion and I'll second Al's motion.
You want to do a roll call vote?
Yeah, I just want to get clarity on motion and second to refer it to you to,
To communicate with council
Communicate with council,
regarding
give them the
providing a written
opportunity.
submission and appearing at the June 9th town board meeting.
okay. Gotcha.
Or if at the request, and if it's at the request of Mr. Raplansky that date's not good and he requests a further date,
Go further down.
then we accommodate that.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right. I have Al as a motion, John as a second,
Yes.
and then roll call. All right. Councilman Prine?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosqueda?
Aye.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilman Prisakowski?
Aye.
And Supervisor Torgiani?
Aye.
All right.
Anyone else have any news, good news, bad news?
Go down there, Mark.
Not right now.
Liz?
No, thanks.
All right, if not, I have a motion to adjourn.
I'm good, thank you. Good?
Yeah, we're good.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.